It started on Heartmatch, a popular dating app I'd been using for a few months. I thought I had found someone special. Her profile seemed genuine, her smile infectious, and her interests closely matched mine. Her name was Clara, and after exchanging pleasantries for a few weeks, we decided to meet. The day finally came. It was a cold, rainy evening. The clouds seemed ominous, casting a dark shadow over everything. I dressed sharply and drove to the chosen spot, a quaint little bistro tucked away from the main street. I couldn't shake a peculiar feeling of unease, but I brushed it off as first date nerves. Arriving at the bistro, I found a table and texted Clara to let her know where I was sitting. She replied, "On my way," with a smiley emoji. I waited, eagerly glancing at the door every time it opened. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. Concern was starting to gnaw at me. I decided to call her, but the call went straight to voicemail. Maybe she's driving, I thought, trying to calm myself. After almost 2 hours, I was about to leave when my phone buzzed. A message from Clara read, "So sorry, got held up. Meet me at 23 Willow Street instead. It's my favorite place." Baffled but still excited, I paid the bill and drove to the address. It was a rundown part of town, the streets lined with abandoned buildings. The rain was beating down now, and the shadows seemed to dance menacingly in the dim streetlights. Finding 23 Willow Street, I realized it was a dilapidated old house, windows boarded up, with a look of abandonment. My heart was pounding in my chest. This doesn't seem right, I thought, but the need to meet Clara overpowered my fears. I texted her, "I'm here," and she replied, "Come on in. The door's open." Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and it creaked ominously. Inside, the house was pitch black, filled with a musty smell. I called out, "Clara," but received no answer. My phone buzzed again. "Come upstairs," the message said. I felt a cold chill run down my spine as I slowly ascended the stairs, the wood groaning beneath my feet. Reaching the top, I saw a dim light coming from a room at the end of the hallway. Walking toward the room, I began to notice strange symbols and old photographs lining the walls. Fear gripped me, but I kept going, driven by an inexplicable curiosity. As I entered the room, I was met with a sight that will haunt me forever. On the floor was a circle drawn with strange symbols, candles flickering, and in the center, a picture. The room was filled with photographs of other people, too. Each one accompanied by personal belongings, trinkets, and notes with handwriting that matched Clara's texts. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. There was never a Clara. I was lured here. Panicked, I turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind me. A cold voice whispered, "Welcome," as the room seemed to close in on me. My head spun, and darkness overcame me. I woke up hours later, lying on the floor, the candles extinguished. The room was empty, all the photographs and symbols gone. Shaken to my core, I ran out of that house as fast as I could. I reported the incident to the police, but they found nothing unusual at 23.
I'd always been a bit skeptical about online dating, but after a string of failed relationships and countless friends urging me to give it a try, I finally caved. I joined Lovelink, a trendy app that promised to find your soulmate. Little did I know, the soulmate I would encounter was far from what anyone would wish for. After a few weeks of swiping, I matched with a guy named Ethan. His profile was intriguing, filled with travel photos and a witty bio. He was handsome and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We chatted for a few days, and soon we decided to meet in person. He suggested a hiking date at a nearby trail. It seemed adventurous, and I liked the idea. On the morning of the date, I dressed casually and drove to the meeting spot, a parking area at the trailhead. I spotted Ethan leaning against his car. He smiled warmly and introduced himself. He was charming and even better looking in person. We started the hike and everything was going perfectly. We laughed, shared stories, and the conversation flowed naturally. But as we ventured deeper into the forest, I began to notice something strange. Ethan seemed to know the trail a little too well, taking us down paths that weren't marked on the map. His questions became more personal, almost intrusive, and his eyes held a glint that made me uncomfortable. I tried to shake off my unease, telling myself that I was just being paranoid. But as the forest grew denser, Ethan's behavior became more unsettling. He began to talk about his fascination with ancient rituals, dark arts, and how he believed that love could be conjured through certain ceremonies. My alarm bells were ringing now, and I told him that I wasn't feeling well and needed to head back. His face twisted into a strange expression, a mix of anger and disappointment, but he agreed. On our way back, Ethan continued to ramble about rituals, love potions, and soul binding. He revealed that he had been studying these practices for years and believed that he had finally found the perfect partner in me. He insisted that we were destined to be together, bound by forces greater than ourselves. Fear was clawing at me now. His words were unhinged, and his demeanor had shifted entirely from the charming man I'd met earlier. We were still deep in the woods, and I had to play along, fearing what he might do if I openly rejected him. I nodded, pretended to be interested, all the while planning my escape. When we finally reached a more populated part of the trail, I told Ethan that I needed to use the restroom and would catch up with him in a few minutes. As soon as he was out of sight, I ran as fast as I could towards the parking area. Panic was setting in, and I could feel Ethan's delusional words echoing in my mind. I reached my car, fumbled for the keys, and drove away, glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him chasing me. I reported the incident to the app's support team and blocked Ethan's profile, but that wasn't the end of it. Over the next few weeks, I started receiving anonymous emails filled with love poems, bizarre drawings of us together, and links to obscure websites on dark rituals. I reported the emails to the authorities, but they couldn't trace them back to Ethan or anyone else. I changed my email address, moved to a new apartment, and deleted all my social media profiles. But the feeling of being watched never left me. Months went by and the emails stopped. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. But the scars of that date remained, and I swore off online dating forever. Then one night, I was going through an old photo album, and something caught my eye. A picture of me as a child at a family gathering, something in the background that I'd never noticed before. There, standing among the crowd, was Ethan, his eyes fixed on me, the same unsettling glint that I had seen on our date. The realization struck me like a lightning bolt. Ethan had been stalking me for years, watching me from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to approach me. The online date wasn't a chance encounter. It was a carefully orchestrated plan. I don't know what he wanted from me, what dark rituals he had in mind, or why he chose me. But one thing is clear. He's still out there, lurking, waiting, and I'll never feel safe again. I often wonder how many others he's pursued and if anyone else has fallen into his twisted web of love and obsession. My advice to anyone considering online dating is to be careful, trust your instincts, and remember that the person behind the charming profile might be hiding something far more sinister than you could ever imagine.
Online dating had always seemed like a bit of a gamble to me. But after years of striking out the traditional way, I decided to roll the dice. I joined Soul Connect, an app that boasted advanced algorithms to find your perfect match. I never thought that it would lead me down a path of terror I'd never forget. After swiping through a sea of profiles, I came across a woman named Sarah. Her profile was simple but elegant, and her smile had an unexplainable allure. We hit it off almost instantly, and after chatting for a week, we decided to meet for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Sarah arrived wearing a red dress that matched her profile picture, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She was as charming in person as she was online, and the evening was filled with laughter and effortless conversation. As the night wore on, she began to share stories of her family's long history in the art of fortune-telling. She spoke of tarot cards, crystal balls, and a lineage of clairvoyance. Her words were laced with an air of mystery that both intrigued and unnerved me. Our conversation drifted to the topic of past relationships, and I opened up about a particularly painful breakup. Sarah's eyes narrowed, and she asked if I'd like her to read my future love life through a unique family ritual. Curiosity getting the best of me, I agreed. We paid the bill and drove to her place, an old Victorian house, adorned with ancient symbols and filled with the fragrance of burning incense. She led me to a room filled with mystical artifacts, where she pulled out an ornate box containing a deck of weathered tarot cards. Sitting across from each other, she began to shuffle the cards, her eyes locked on mine, her voice dropping to a soft, hypnotic tone. She told me to concentrate on my love life and to touch the cards. The moment I touched them, a shock ran up my arm and the room seemed to shift. The candles flickered, and Sarah's eyes glowed with an otherworldly fire. She began to lay out the cards, her voice growing distant and cold. The cards revealed images of love and loss, but then something dark crept into the reading. A card of betrayal, followed by one of doom. Sarah's face twisted into a mask of horror. The cards speak of a betrayal most foul, a love cursed and twisted. A shadow from your past will haunt your future, she whispered, her voice trembling. I felt a chill run through me, but I laughed it off, telling her it was just a game. But her eyes told me she believed otherwise. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to forget that night. But something had changed. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes watching me. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, and nightmares filled my sleep. I began to see Sarah's face everywhere, in reflections, in dreams, in the faces of strangers. Her words echoed in my mind, a relentless reminder of the cursed love she had foretold. I tried to reach out to her, to understand what had happened that night, but her profile on Soul Connect had vanished, and her phone was disconnected. Her house was empty, as if she had never existed. My life spiraled into chaos. Relationships crumbled, and darkness seemed to follow me wherever I went. Friends and family grew distant, unable to understand my growing obsession with Sarah and the curse she had revealed. Months turned into years, and the shadow never lifted. I became a prisoner of my own mind, haunted by a betrayal that never came, a love that never existed, and a curse that seemed all too real. I searched for answers, diving into the world of the occult, trying to understand what Sarah had unleashed. But the more I searched, the more elusive the truth became. And then, one fateful night, I stumbled upon an ancient manuscript in a hidden corner of a dusty bookstore. It spoke of a curse tied to a family of fortune-tellers, a curse that bound the reader to a never-ending cycle of betrayal and despair. The realization hit me like a cold wave. Sarah hadn't read my future, she had cursed it. Now I wander through life, trapped in a never-ending loop of love and loss, forever haunted by the eyes of a woman I met on a simple dating app, a woman who trapped me in a nightmare from which there is no escape. My warning to anyone dabbling in the world of online dating is to beware the allure of the unknown, for you never know what darkness lurks behind the smiling profile picture. Sometimes, a simple swipe can lead you down a path from which there is no return. In my case, a single date turned into a lifetime of horror, a horror that waits, hidden in the shadows, ready to strike when you least expect it.
Thanks for joining me in this chilling adventure. If you want more horrifying stories like this, hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss out on next week's shocking tale that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe and be the first to know.